Welcome to the Retirement Lifestyle Show. I'm your co-host, Roshan Loungani, here with Adrian Nicholson. How are you doing, Adrian?
I'm doing great, Roshan. It was good seeing you last week in Chicago for the conference. That was a great time and looking forward to today's podcast.
Yeah, great time. We had our national conference for our firm, Arate Wealth Management, or Arate Wealth, really, and we a lot of good information. A great time in Chicago. Yeah, Adrian, I had a great time as well.
Yep, good to be back too.
And yeah, glad to be back. We learned a lot there. Now we can sort of execute on some of that knowledge we got on there. We've got a couple interesting topics for you today, Adrian. If you don't mind, I'll kick us off talking about inflation and oil prices. Have you been seeing or reading a lot about this in the financial press or CNBC or anything like that?
Yeah, I have been seeing a lot about oil. I mean, with interest rates as high as they are and just the ongoing supply and demand back and forth with oil, it's just been on the top of investors' mind. And it's something that I think is really important, especially too when it comes to the consumer and investors. So I think this will be a really exciting topic to discuss with you.
Yeah, and like you had talked about inflation, let's actually take a step back to give a little bit of a backdrop on this. The CPI, Consumer Price Index, was up 0.6% in August, which was the first increase in a few months. We've had a nice trend of it going down. The core CPI, which excludes food and energy, only rose by 0.3. The issue with oil prices are as they go up, inflation across the board goes up just because you've got to transport goods, right? So if anything you're buying at the grocery store, that's typically driven in a truck, and if they're paying more for gas, you're paying more at the checkout line. So the average price of gas was $3.84 in August, up from $3.60 and in July. So we're wondering, one, what will this mean for oil? What does it mean for the oil companies? Where are things headed? And it appears that the consensus is that OPEC and the cuts by Saudi Arabia and Russia are what's driving these prices up. Adrian, are you seeing anything that's very different on this?
Well, not really. I mean, you're touching on the main point as well. If there's going to be supply restrictions on oil, that's just going to be concerned as well. And just the overall like global economy in general. I mean, if there's a slowdown that's going to happen, you touched on that. That's really going to impact the price of oil and gas just throughout. So that's just something that really needs to be on people's radar just to see what direction this really goes into. Because when it just comes to oil and gas in general, there's just a lot of things that come into play that can go right or can go wrong that can really disrupt the price.
Yeah, for sure. And us as a country, the United States, we're still considered an oil and gas superpower.
Hmm.
However, uh, the the companies particularly that can get us oil with through shale, through fracking, um, they're not planning to increase production because right now we're experiencing what's called uh, backwardation, meaning the futures markets are predicting that oil prices are going to go down, and so you've got oil companies that it takes up to 9 months to put a rig out there that can then start producing, and they're concerned that the price will drop, and that Saudi Arabia can manipulate the price. So I'm thinking about this just overall economically from an inflation perspective. Are uh, are oil prices going to continue to increase, or are we going to be able to produce our way out of it? And I just don't see it happening, at least right now, which means that we're, as we have been in the past, we're subject to whatever OPEC wants to do. If that's the case, does that mean there is potentially another rate hike coming? The Fed's left the door open, saying that they may raise rates one more time, and and hopefully that'll be the last one. There's been a lot of talk out there that rates aren't going to, people speculating that they don't think rates are going to go up, but I'm just looking at this from an overall economy and market perspective. If rates are going up, or even if they don't raise it again, let's say they're right, but this causes them to stay higher for longer, I think this might be a contributing factor to higher rates, or at least maintaining rates for a longer time, which is why the markets, in part why the markets reacted so negatively. Now, September is historically a bad month anyway, but that's in part the reason the markets declined so much, is this higher for longer talk from the Fed really caused a big part of that decline.
Yeah, and another component as well when you talk about just oil and its price as well is just the U.S. dollar as well, especially being affected by having higher rates, just because oil is really traded far as on its exchange using the U.S. dollar. That's just going to be another thing that investors are going to have to look at as well and see what direction that heads into.
Yeah, I agree. That's an interesting time. I just brought this topic up as we were both bringing two different topics in the field. One that I'd call more, this to me is more of an investing type topic, looking at inflation and oil prices. And Adrian, why don't you go ahead and begin your topic, which I'd put in the more financial planning category.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I just want to tip my hat off to you. I actually got this idea from you when we were discussing it in Chicago back in the conference as well. And what this topic is called is a blue zone. This is where researchers have been going to certain areas in the world, certain regions, and are finding that certain people in these places are living exceptionally long and healthy lives. And some of them are surpassing the age of 100. And I think this is just a really interesting topic to discuss as well, because it plays into longevity. You know, people are living longer, but they're also living fulfilling lives, healthy lives. They're enjoying these really late stage points in their life. And I think that's just something that everybody really looks forward to and wants to enjoy later on down the road. And it's really good to see, especially when you're seeing lower rates of age related diseases in these blue zone regions. I think that's something where people want to look into and just understand more, like what is going on in these places, what kind of lifestyle these people have, what kind of patterns or trends, or what are they really doing that's helping them live past the age 100 and really enjoying living past age 100 with a healthy lifestyle. And I think that's just something that's really valuable and just, worth having a conversation with. And again, this is just going to be just general knowledge that I'm going to be outlining. It's not medical advice or anything like that. Obviously, when it comes to anything like that, just consult a professional. But again, it's just something worth just having a conversation discussing about, where these people are having really healthy lives past the age of 100. So I like to dive deep into it. Have you heard about this as well, Roshan? I mean, you're the one that brought up the topic, but have you done a little bit of a deep dive on it yet?
I have not done a deep dive. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say on it. A couple of things I just want to mention. One, I hadn't really heard this term before. So, or the term is for someone that a population of individuals who reach 100 or more is
Mm-hmm.
centenarians.
Mm-hmm.
And I first heard about it with the Netflix has a show called Live to 100 Secrets of Blue Zones, which is where I had heard about this. Adrian, can you define, you had mentioned blue zones. Can you just explain what that is?
So this is it refers to a region where people tend to just live long and healthy lives, where there's just low rates of age-related diseases, and researchers go in here just to really understand what they do in their daily lives. And I have 12 lifestyle patterns, or 12 things that these people do in these regions that contribute or help them live to age 100 and beyond in a healthy way that I'll outline for our listeners and viewers today.
Oh yeah, please, let's start. Let's start on that.
So the first one I have on my list is manual labor. Typically, people in these blue zone regions engage in physical activity almost on a daily basis. And manual labor can just include something far as farming, building, or any other forms of physical work in their daily routine. And this helps keep individuals physically active and also can provide people a sense of purpose and meaning, especially when it comes to their work. So, as we know, just manual labor, where it's lifting, traveling, going anywhere, it's just, or just creating something or just going outside, it provides that physical activity that can keep people healthy and keep them living longer. So, that's the first one on my list.
Yeah, from the episodes I saw on that special, when they talked about manual labor, I only saw a couple of them, but they highlighted in Osaka, Japan, how gardening. So people were gardening a lot there, and so with gardening, you're bending down a lot to grow your garden. And then the other one they had mentioned, I believe it was in Sardinia, that uh, it's very hilly and people walked places versus driving. So a
Hmm.
lot of this manual labor is almost lifestyle stuff with just walking versus driving and then walking uphill or the gardening.
Yep, exactly. That was the second one on my list, Roshan. You hit it right on the head. Walking. I mean, this is a common mode of transportation for people that live in these blue zones, and it's a low intensity exercise that people do like week in and week out through their daily routine that can keep them physically active and keep them healthy where they live longer. So, walking is the second one on my list that these have a common trend in all these blue regions as well for these people have these healthy lifestyles. The third one on my list, which is typically a popular hobby that some people have, is gardening. And not only is it beneficial where this is also people are outside or wherever they may be doing a lower centered, a gravity exercise where you're digging in the ground or whatever it may be outside. It does require some form of physical effort, and it also gives some people connection to nature, which helps them find more fulfilling work and just overall also promotes a healthy promoting activity where maybe this is also how they get their food as well or whatever it may be. It's just another form or lifestyle trait that they use that helps them just maintain that long life that they have. And, it's something interesting as well because I also had somebody on my dad's side of the family, a close relative of mine, who lived almost past the age of 110. And one of the things that this person really enjoyed was gardening as well. So I found interesting that connection there as well and found it relatable.
Yeah, and did and I don't mean to give this away if this is on your list, it's just a thought. With the gardening, does something are they gardening things like flowers, or are they growing foods that would then be healthier because they're coming straight from the garden to their table?
Well, I got to imagine it's just both as well, but that is one on my list as well, where predominantly people in these blue zones tend to eat plant-based food, and it's predominantly just fruits and vegetables as well. And I got to imagine there is a correlation or connection between that and gardening as well. But I think the overall concept of it is also goes back into that manual labor where gardening takes, some form of physical exercise, a low intensity exercise, whatever it may be, to just keep them physically active and just promoting a healthy lifestyle for them that they've been doing for so long and just a routine in a way in their daily life.
I also wonder, once again, it may be on your list already, but if just the fact that being outside and in the sun is helpful. I just think that my children's ophthalmologist will always say, um, get outside for 2 hours a day so you
Hmm.
get the sun.
Yep,
Is
exactly.
that one on your list, or is that just something that could be a an added benefit of the gardening?
It's probably just an added benefit of the gardening. And again, by no means you could do everything on my list as well. And you might not make it to the age 100, or you might have some type of issue as well. But it's just something that they tend to have in common, these traits as well, that, could be a beneficial factor for you in your life as well, that I thought was worth interesting and just lining out to our listeners and viewers today as well. So the next one I have on my list is unwound from stress, and where these people in blue zone typically have effective strategies for managing stress in their life. And this is a big one as well because, as some people already know, that low stress levels contribute to sometimes a better overall physical and mental health as well. So it could be something as meditation, spending time in nature, going outside, or simply taking time to relax, where these people in the blue zone have these strategies where they're able to just unwind every day, just lower their stress levels, whatever may be, and they've seen that promote a healthier lifestyle for them and helping them live longer.
Was there any consistency as to what they did to de-stress?
So the only examples I have on my list is meditation, spending time outside or in nature, and then just a more general one, just finding simple ways to just relax and unwind at the end of the day.
Oh, excellent. That's great.
So next on my list, I have faith or spiritual practices, where this is a predominantly major feature in some of these blue zone regions where they engage in spiritual practices, and it also helps provide a sense of community for them, a sense of purpose, and some find inner peace as well, where these activities can be prayer, meditation, or attending any gathering part in their community. This also plays an integral role in these communities as well that they find beneficial within these later stages of their life.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, the episode I mentioned of the show, where I believe it was Sardinia, they interviewed someone that she went to church every day, and that was the steep uphill walk to get to
Yeah.
church from her house.
Hmm.
So that got the two of them off. Actually, really three, I guess. The de-stressing of going outside, the manual labor of going uphill and walking, and the spirituality and faith that you just mentioned.
Hmm. And it also plays into the next one I have on my list. It's a strong sense of purpose, where they often have a clear sense of purpose in their lives, where they feel that they have meaning, and helps them remain active and engaged well into their later stages of their life. And just having a strong sense of purpose has just been linked to increased life satisfaction and longevity as well, where it just keeps them motivated, keeps them and just engaged, whatever they may be doing in their life. It's something that they found very beneficial.
Yeah, the Japanese episode they touched on the term called Ikigai, which is in Japanese means your reason for being or your purpose in life.
Hmm.
And I also remember um, when I was teaching the science of happiness, or we called it happiness hour, but it was classes on the science of happiness. Purpose, sense of purpose, was also a leading factor to just being happy in life in general. I imagine that those go hand in hand, though. Living longer and being happy. If you're miserable, you probably don't want to live longer.
Yeah, I definitely could see a correlation as well. That's a good thing to point out as well, Roshan. So the next I have on my list as well is that they have moderate wine consumption. And typically people think when they think of alcohol, they think maybe that's something that can knock some years off your life as well. But people in the blue zone, they have moderate wine consumption. It's a common practice, particularly wet red wine. And that's something too that I thought was interesting that I could add to my list as well. I'm sure people may have an opposite opinion on that as well, but it's something that's been common across all these regions.
Yeah, I remember for seeing years ago for heart health that red wines, and I think in particular Pinot Noirs, are supposed to be good for you.
Oh,
So I'm
wow, that's really
not too
interesting.
surprised to hear that.
Hmm. The next thing on my list is emphasizing on moderation. And I think this really just goes beyond just maybe food in general, just having satisfaction for whatever you do, whether it's eating or whatever it is in your daily life, just not getting full off of it. We're just incorporating and having practice mind when it comes to moderation, whether it's eating or whatever it may be, can be something as well that's beneficial where, you feel satisfied and you don't take that extra step or whatever it may be. Just having moderation and diversifying whatever you do in your daily routine can be beneficial for these people that live past age 100 as well.
Interesting, and that makes sense as well. The um, episode on Japan that talked that had the people in Osaka. They talked about being only being 80% full when they were eating, right?
Hmm.
So they wouldn't get too full when they eat, which is just moderation, as you just mentioned.
Yep. The next one I have on my list is prioritizing family bonds. Family is just a central role in the life of people in the blue zone where they like prioritizing spending time with family. and having strong family network helps provide with some of them some emotional support and a sense of belonging. So this is something that's what they believe is vital to promoting that healthy lifestyle and just being engaged and just really enjoying their time, having a strong family connection they just find very valuable.
Yeah, and you know when I mentioned the science of happiness, that was one of the things on there. I've mentioned it on a previous episode. I'll actually go through the acronym that he had. It's Professor Martin Seligman at UPenn, and his acronym was PERMA, which is positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. So a couple of those items have shown up on your list. I wonder if how many more do you have, and let's see if there are any more of these on there.
So I have two left. The second last one I have is maintaining strong partnerships where people, the inhabitants of the Blue Zone communities, really place a high value on long lasting partnerships such as marriage. And there's just strong committed relationships offer, in their opinion, just social and emotional support throughout their whole life. That's something they find very valuable and something they really try to emphasize within their communities.
Yeah, which makes sense. Even with this perma thing, relationships was one of them on there, probably as a catch-all category for both things you mentioned, partnerships and time with family.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then the last one on my list is choosing the right tribe. This is where residents often surround themselves in a social circle or community with people that share the same interests or values or whatever it may be. And they believe this helps with social support, encouragement, and a sense of belonging that contributes to helping them live longer and happier lives.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look this up, but I was just listening to this podcast. I'm a big fan of it. It's called Founders. For anyone looking for something else to listen to or check out, it's really just the uh, podcast host will read books and gather information on founders, on people's lives, famous people. Most recently was Jimmy Buffett, but I thought of Mark Twain, the Mark Twain episode when you mentioned this. But Mark Twain got advice apparently after his first hit when he was in Hawaii from someone about finding the right people to spend time with to improve yourself, which reminds me of this finding the right tribe as you just described.
Yeah, and it's just a great way just to just engage with other people and just see what different stages they are in their life and just get ideas, spend time with people. Just overall, that sense of community is just very valuable, and that's what just people in general just like and enjoy in their lives.
Yeah, that's excellent. So we've covered two topics today. One that's more, I'd say, for current time, like what's going on right now with inflation and oil prices, and more on the investing side. And the other one that I'd call more on the in our world, I group it as the planning side, the financial planning side, because we want to plan based on how long we think you're going to live, but giving people advice on how to live till age 100. I think is very, very helpful. Adrian, any final closing thoughts?
Oh, I enjoyed this discussion with you today, Roshan. I really like the topic that we had today, and just happy that we were able to cover it all.
Excellent. We hope all of you do well on your investments and can live till age 100. And we'll be back next week with another great episode. Take control and achieve your goals.